Hello from the friendly confines of the basement. I have the air conditioner on for the first time this year. Finally felt like I should feel comfortable in my own home. No, I'm just kidding. We haven't actually had that many hot days, but it does feel nice when you walk in from the outside and you're not. It feels refreshing. This is episode 132, believe it or not, of Three Things with Ian. Can't do the math in my head, but we talked a lot of topics, and I have at least, sometimes I have four, I have at least three for you today. On today's episode, it's going to be a doozy, TBOI, the best one yet, for those that are not initiated to my weird ways of speaking. We will talk ping pong ball NBA draft lottery. We will talk a crazy Hulk Hogan quote that I had to read 4 times to finally understand, and a little bit of the Kentucky Derby. I want to kind of go over an unknown side of it that I didn't realize was a thing. So let's talk basketball. Tonight is the 2025 NBA draft lottery. And yes, it has its origins with those famous, kind of like the bingo wheels. You have the bouncing ping pong balls and you pull the nozzle, and one ball shoots down and you read it. And if it's your ball, you're happy. And if it's not, you're deflated. So, so I think it's interesting that I can't speak to Major League Baseball because I don't know anything about that draft, but the NFL draft and the NBA draft are two pretty big days on the calendar. NFL draft has just gotten massive, 4-day, huge event. I'm still reading coverage, still reading draft grades after about a month's passed. NBA draft is a little bit different. A number of there's 14 selections in the first. Basically, if you're bad enough, you have a better chance of getting the number one pick. It's not guaranteed. So unlike some sports where if you're the bottom barrel person, you get the first pick. NBA, the worse you are, the better percentage you have of getting that number one pick. Right? That's the ping pong thing. That is the percentage game. So it's in Chicago. We know that Cooper Flagg is going to be the number one pick. Sometimes, like in football, there's a consensus number one. He is by far the dynamite number one draft prospect out of Duke. He is the 18-year-old Mainer. Every team hopes to be the one the lottery gods smile upon. Not quite as hyped as Victor Wembanyama. I always want to say his name, but it's actually not as hard as it sounds. Wembanyama. He was the 2023 draft. He was the next great thing. He still probably will be the next great thing. He had an injury this year. But Cooper Flagg people are very excited. And so basically 14 teams can vie to have the number one pick. The lottery is a high stakes game. It is based on luck, but unfortunately it can sway the direction. The one ping pong ball can sway the direction of the entire franchise. We've seen it before. The teams with the 3 worst records during regular season, that was the Utah Jazz, Washington Wizards, and Charlotte Hornets, each have a 14% chance of landing the number one pick. So let's just read a little bit more into this. The problem is, it is actually since 2019, which is only 6 years ago, the 3 teams with the best chance of landing the number one pick have not gotten it. They have not gotten it. Teams with a much worse percentage have gotten it, which is kind of frustrating, especially for the Utah Jazz. They have the worst record in the NBA. They were 17-65, not good at all. But no team with the worst record has won the lottery since the new odds went into effect in 2019. So 14% chance. You'd think it'd be higher actually. If you're the top, if you are the worst, if your team is one of the worst 3 teams, you'd think it'd be a better percentage. But really, it's not. The Washington Wizards have brought tanking to a new level. Man, they have a long-term sustainability project on tanking. They're terrible. I actually went to an NBA Wizards game. I went to a Washington Wizards game this year, believe it or not. It was really painful last time because in 2023 they were the odds-on favorite to have the number one pick, to pick Victor Wembanyama. I always end whatever. Victor W. They did not get him. They ended up with the number 8 pick, which was a huge difference. Number 1 pick versus number 8 pick. There's going to be some differences. Will the lottery gods smile on the Spurs this season? Remember, the Spurs got Victor. They have a 6.7% chance of getting him and Cooper Flagg in the backcourt. Sacre Bleu, that would be very unlikely, but we shall see. Yeah, so it's one of those events that I kind of like to watch on television because I like to see the teams that think that they've done enough tanking to guarantee themselves a number 1 or 2 or number 3 pick, falling to like 8th, ninth, and 10th and just being crushed. I don't know how I feel about the NBA draft in terms of the ping pong ball stuff. I mean, I do think that it prevents teams from like purposely tanking to get the number 1 pick, but it still behooves you to be, if you're going to be bad, be very bad. I think that's the general consensus. Anyway, let's move on to our number 2 topic. Less about ping pong balls and more about whipping. Yes, I said whipping. I didn't realize that. So horse racing and I have a weird relationship. I think I'm really against horse racing for a lot of reasons. Essentially, was it a year or 2 ago, just in California alone, there was like hundreds of horses that were killed after they, grievously broke bones and had life-ending injuries from falls on the track or for overexertion or for just a lot of different things. And it was pretty appalling. Junior Alvarado, he is the jockey of the Kentucky Derby winning horse Sovereignty. He was fined a lot of money because he struck his horse with his riding crop too many times during last weekend's win. I always assumed, although I don't like the whipping thing, I assumed that the whipping thing was part and parcel of the sport and that there was no, you just did it throughout the entire duration of the ride. But apparently, you're only allowed 6 whips. You can strike your horse's hindquarters 6 times. I guess looking at videotape, they discovered he had whipped his horse 8 times. I mean, he acknowledged it, saying I couldn't keep track. It was too big of a race. Adrenaline, blood flowing. There's so much on your mind. And he also said that I needed to whip the horse 2 more times to get him to win. He said he was neck and neck with the horse next to him, and he thought that the best way to get more performance out of the horse was to hurt the horse. Now, I'm not saying hurt, capital H hurt, but I know that there's some pain receptors going off. I don't think it's hurting the horse a ton, but I think it does kick it into gear. That's the whole purpose of the whipping. Interesting enough, if he had whipped the horse 10 or more times, he would have been disqualified. So he actually was riding that line. The Class 3 violation triggered a 10% fine of Alvarado's winnings, which were $310,000 of the overall $3.1 million purse. The troubling thing is it was Alvarado's second such offense within the past 180 days, which doubled the fine. And since 2022, he's been penalized 9 times. So just another reason maybe that horse racing just ought not to exist. I mean, it's pretty barbaric. Yes, it is an exciting 2 minutes in sports. I've always been open and honest that horse racing is an exciting thing to behold. It's fast. It's electric. People come from behind. Can they hold on to their lead? It's very exciting. Famously, it's been called the most exciting 2 minutes of sports. But I don't know. I mean, between the horses not having much autonomy and agency, and the fact that they have really good lives in terms of like the diet and the grooming and the massaging, but they are basically pushed to the absolute 120% limit several times during their lifetimes, and it's put a lot of strain on the heart and the hindquarters and everything else. And the whipping thing, maybe this is a bridge too far. So I just thought that was an interesting story. It was one that I had no idea that there was a limit on how many times you could hit your horse in the hindquarters. And I didn't do the research, but I wonder how many horses or how many winners have had to give up their title because they've gone over the 10 hit limit rule. So anyway, my last little thing is I've been watching this documentary. I don't like wrestling. I don't follow WWE, WWF. I don't know the acronym anymore. I don't follow the McMahons, and I mean one of them runs the education department, which is troubling to say the least. But I'm watching this documentary on how they put together WrestleMania 9. This was famously the world's largest toga party. It was at Caesar's Palace. It was in the parking lot. They built a faux Roman temple, and it was sort of the beginning of like the big showmanship stuff, where WrestleMania is like, even though I don't watch it, I have no interest in it. I like the visuals, I like the pageantry, the acting of it. I kind of get sucked in a little bit, and that's the purpose of it. But anyway, Hulk Hogan, who I don't want to learn too much about because I'm pretty sure I would end up despising him. But he's claimed that several times actually, he could wrestle 400 days a year due to time zone differences when flying between the U.S. and Japan. Specifically, he said he could wrestle in one place one day, fly to Japan, and then wrestle again yesterday due to the international date line. mathematically and logistically, it's improbable, and also he's missing the bigger point because a flight from New York to Tokyo actually loses time. You lose 14 hours, but theoretically, when you do fly back, let's say it's a 12-hour, it's a 14-hour difference in a 12-hour flight. You do get a +2, but the fact that you're going back and forth negates the change. You understand what I'm saying? So if you're doing +14 -14, right, there's a net canceling. But it is possible that when you do leave, if you wrestle in Japan, and I guess he was flying back and forth constantly. I guess WrestleMania, I mean, just wrestling in general had a huge Japanese audience. I know Yokozuna was a famous wrestler. He was essentially a exaggerated hyperbolization of a sumo wrestler. But anyway, Japan was gaga for Hulk Hogan. I mean, he was the biggest. Hulk Hogan, Bart Simpson, Marlboro Man. Those were the 80s figures of Mount Rushmore, right? I mean, Mickey Mouse, Ronald McDonald, those were the guys. Betty Boop, maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm stretching it too far now. But anyway, he did travel a lot, and when you travel back from Japan, I mean, you do get. It's a 14-hour difference, 12-hour flight, whatever. You have a very long day. You do have like 24 plus 14-hour day, right? But when you're going over there, your day is essentially a blip. It's whipped because you're losing all that time. You're losing 14 hours out of your 24-hour day. So anyway, I just thought that at first the quote was like intriguing to me, and it still is. And Hulk Hogan probably has some brain damage. I mean, roids will do only so much for you. He's always so sweaty. And I think it's a lot of baby oil, but still, they're just also sweaty. I think they're just so hyped up. They're just so like Anyway, I'm gonna leave you with that because I'm hungry for dinner. But we talked about horses, hindquarters, NBA draft lottery, ping pong bowls. May the odds be ever in your favor, which I believe is a quote from a book. But anyway, and then Hulk Hogan. I will see you tomorrow. Let's blow up this channel. Let's get this thing big. Not that I'm counting views or anything like that, but it's sometimes just nice to see recognition. So like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell an enemy, tell a frenemy, tell anybody you want about me and what I'm doing here, and give me some ideas. 3 times 132. We've gone through a lot together. So here's to another 200 plus days. Bye.